rising African leader, making waves both on the ground and online. Known for his charisma, military fatigues, and fiery anti-Western stance, he is
in the heart of Ouagadougou. Something extraordinary is happening. Construction vehicles rumble across the Waga 2000 district, cranes pierce the skyline, and workers in hard hats swarm over newly poured foundations. But this isn't just another infrastructure project. This is something far more ambitious. President Ibrahim Traoré has laid the first stone of what many are calling the most visionary urban development in Burkina Faso's history. A new city bearing his own name. Welcome to Ibrahim Traoré City. In that single symbolic moment, Burkina Faso's story began to shift, from a nation defined by conflict and struggle to one asserting its ambition to lead. The very idea of a trillion-franc city rising overnight was enough to stun not just the world, but even Traoré's most ardent supporters. They've grown used to his bold rhetoric and sweeping reforms, but a self-sufficient smart city, named after a sitting president and designed to rival the most modern urban centers on the continent? That was unexpected. The vision is staggering. At the center of the project stands Burkina Tower, a 35-story skyscraper set to become the tallest structure in West Africa. Surrounding it will be 15 high-rise buildings, 700 eco-friendly apartments, medical centers, modern office spaces, an innovation hub, a sprawling shopping complex, and state-of-the-art leisure facilities. But this isn't just a skyline transformation. This is a bold attempt to reshape Burkina Faso's future. What truly sets this city apart is its commitment to self-sufficiency. Traoré City will operate on its own energy grid, powered by solar farms, backup batteries, and off-grid storage, an answer to the rolling blackouts and energy dependency that have long crippled West African development. Water recycling systems, sustainable architecture, green corridors, and plans for electric buses reflect a future-focused design more in line with the cities of Northern Europe than those of the Sahel. And then there's the money. The project, valued at 320 billion CFA francs, isn't being funded by the IMF, the World Bank, or Western donors. Instead, it's backed by local contractors, regional partners, and select Pan-African investors. It marks one of the first megaprojects in Burkina Faso to be financed primarily through African capital. It's a declaration of economic independence, proof, in Traoré's words, that Africa can dream big, fund big, and own its future. Reactions have been explosive. Supporters flooded social media, calling it a turning point in the nation's history. Youth organizations praised it as a job engine, a hope generator, and a physical rejection of the despair that has long hovered over Burkina Faso. For many, it's not just a city, it's a symbol. Yet, not everyone is applauding. Critics have voiced concerns over timing and priorities. With parts of the country still gripped by insurgent violence, some question whether now is the time for a flagship urban project. Others argue that naming the city after a current leader could stir controversy, fueling fears of cult-like politics. Still, many economists point out that large-scale infrastructure is often key to national recovery, creating employment, boosting investor confidence, and laying the foundations for long-term growth. But to understand why the city is so controversial and so celebrated, you have to understand the man behind it. Ibrahim Traoré is no ordinary president. Born in 1988 in the Haute-Bassins region, far from political power, he grew up in a Burkina Faso still reeling from the economic and psychological damage of colonialism. He joined the military as a young artillery officer and quickly gained a reputation for discipline, courage, and plain-spoken leadership. When he led the 2022 coup that toppled then-President Paul-Henri Damiba, it wasn't seen as a power grab. It was seen as an act of necessity. Traoré didn't settle into the role of a distant military ruler. Instead, he hit the ground running, literally. He toured markets, met with farmers, sat with soldiers in the field. He wore fatigues, not expensive suits. He spoke of dignity, sovereignty, and pride. And he made it clear, Burkina Faso would no longer wait for salvation from abroad. Under his leadership, French military forces were pushed out. Contracts with Western companies were re-evaluated or cancelled. New partnerships with Russia and other non-Western states emerged. More than that, he invoked the spirit of Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, and other icons of African self-determination, positioning himself as part of a new generation of leaders rejecting neo-colonial dependency. His name has become a rallying cry, not just in Burkina Faso, but across the Sahel, from Mali to Niger and beyond. So when the city was named after him, Supporters saw it not as arrogance, but as affirmation, a physical expression of Pan-Africanist resolve, a monument to the belief that leadership should build, not just manage. But there's more to Traoré City than symbolism. The Burkina Business Center will feature over 2,000 office spaces and an innovation district focused on fintech, agri-tech, logistics, and light manufacturing. Local startups will be given tax incentives. Educational centers, libraries, theaters, and public parks will offer a holistic urban lifestyle. The healthcare complex, equipped with modern facilities, aims to end the costly trend of outbound medical tourism. Most significantly, the project places a strong emphasis on local labor. Unlike many African megaprojects dominated by foreign firms, Traoré has committed to using Burkinabe contractors, engineers, and workers. Training programs are already underway to build a high-tech construction workforce, skills that will outlast the city and ripple into other industries. Yet, the risks are real. Burkina Faso remains plagued by insecurity, especially in its northern and eastern regions. Can a futuristic city thrive while other regions remain in chaos? Critics worry the investment could deepen inequalities or drain resources from agriculture and rural development. There's also the matter of public expectations. If the city becomes a symbol of exclusion or fails to deliver on housing and jobs, it could turn into a political liability. And then there's the geopolitical pressure. Traoré's move away from traditional Western allies has sparked applause among Pan-Africanists, but concern among global financial institutions. With fewer safety nets, Burkina Faso is gambling on itself, a bold move but one with a narrow margin for error. Still, supporters argue that doing nothing is no longer an option. For too long, Burkina Faso has been seen as a land of problems. Now it wants to be a land of possibilities. Ibrahim Traoré City is a national gamble but also a global signal. If successful, it could inspire a new model for African cities. Self-powered, locally funded, and culturally rooted. It might redefine how infrastructure is imagined, not as donor-driven charity, but as sovereign expression. A blueprint for African pride. It's also a generational statement. Traoré is among the youngest leaders on the continent, and his city is aimed at Africa's youth, the continent's largest and most underserved demographic. In design, function, and philosophy, the city speaks to young Africans' desire for innovation, employment, and dignity. But perhaps the most profound impact is psychological. For a nation battered by headlines of violence and instability, this city represents something rare: belief. Belief that Burkina Faso can build. Belief that leadership can deliver. Belief that Africa can fund, design, and own its progress without asking for permission. Yes, the challenges are enormous, but so is the ambition. Whether Ibrahim Traoré City becomes a shining success or a cautionary tale remains to be seen. But either way, it has already changed something fundamental: the way Burkina Faso sees itself, and the way the world sees Burkina Faso. This is no longer just the story of survival. This is the story of what Africa dares to build.